Welcome to On the Go, a podcast about life, leadership, and the Lord. Here are your hosts, J.C. Worley and David Waldroup.
All right, welcome to the On the Go podcast. It's all about life, leadership, and the Lord.
We're really doing it.
And you know who we are, but
Hey-o.
just in case you don't, I'm David, and this is Pastor JC.
And we're back.
We are back.
Oh,
we actually
back.
talked about...
Stop. Collaborate and listen. The podcast is back with a brand new invention. No?
I want you to keep going.
Something.
No.
Grabs a hold of me
changed my
tightly,
mind.
flow like a harpoon daily and nightly.
Shut it.
All right.
Okay, so here we go.
Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know.
It will never stop. I know this already.
I'm done.
And here's what else
I'm
I know.
done.
You're not done. You're going to do it one more time because I already know.
I'm not going to do it.
Okay, guys, we talked about...
So like a harpoon.
I see.
kidding.
Okay,
That was a joke. Okay, no, I'm
now
done.
you're done. We did our top 10 for each of us, our own personal top 10 leadership failures, actually.
We really did. Wow.
And it was very easy to come up with that list, for at least for me.
Sadly,
And
it was
so-
too easy.
It was too easy.
Yeah.
Now we're actually going to pivot because, believe it or not, we do have some finest moments in leadership.
I remember that one day.
That one time, that one thing. Yeah, so this I have found, well, if I can be really honest, I don't think either one of us have actually completed our list. We're going to record
not.
each episode by faith.
I know.
We have enough for today's episode, but this is
It's
much
just so
more
hard.
difficult to talk about what we've done well. So I can't believe people are listening, but hey, here we
Well,
go.
I will say my number 1 and 2 were the easiest for me.
Those are the easiest.
They were the
And we'll
easiest.
save those for last.
That's right. We're going to save them for last, but they were the easiest. And then when you listen to the podcast, you'll know why they were the easiest.
Right.
But, you know, when you're trying to fill in like 10 things you did really well,
It also feels a little arrogant, and so
it does.
it's hard to do that. So
Don't
just
hear
know
what
that
we're not saying.
Exactly. We are not full of ourselves. We just want you to know that we're not just self-deprecating when we tell you our top 10 failures, because there are some things that we know that we did well. And just so you know, this is free, but humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less.
My God.
And so...
Did I teach you that?
C.S. Lewis did. So you don't have
Anybody
to...
with initials?
Anyone
Hello?
with initials. So just know that, like, it's okay to know what you're good at and to acknowledge what you're good at, to acknowledge what you did well. That doesn't mean you're taking credit for it. You can still give God all the glory.
Amen
But
to that.
there were some things we did well. So
Yeah.
let's start at number 10, and we'll work our way up to what we feel like was our best.
I'm gonna let you start.
Okay.
That way I can kind of know where you're going.
Okay.
And then okay.
Okay.
But you start.
Okay.
You feel good about this?
I do. I don't have a folder.
Oh man, listen.
Yeah, I don't have a folder, guys. So
That is so
add it to my 11
disappointing.
failures of leadership. I didn't create a folder where we've tracked all of our
really
failures.
disappointing, man.
Failures are written down. Our finest moments, they're going to be written down in history forever. So
yeah,
here's what I did. Let's start the list. Here we go. Number 10 for David, my finest moment, my 10th finest moment in leadership was less of a moment and more of a decision. I chose to be a reader as soon as I started off in leadership. I was in college and I wasn't really reading any of my textbooks in college, so I probably should have done that. But
C's get degrees.
it sure did. And I just kind of went by faith through college. But I actually chose to be a reader, and not just a reader, but just gaining all information. I fell into the podcast world, listening to any sort of seminar, reading as many books as I can. And I can't even really describe how valuable that's been to me. I have an Audible subscription, and I am constantly just reading books, whether it's paperback, listening. I'll tell you out there, honestly, if you say, well, listen, I'm just not a reader, you have to develop that skill.
Leaders are readers.
Leaders are readers, and you've got to work that into your life somehow. And you need to read a variety of topics from a variety of authors.
Yeah.
You don't want to just hear from certain segments of people. I'm just telling you, that's been so valuable for me. There's not really a whole lot more I can say on that. Just any podcast that's out there. If there's anything I can say, it's this. We, especially in America today, we have an embarrassment of riches in terms of the amount of information that's out there. It's actually crazy.
I agree
So
with that.
if you're uninformed in your world that you're leading in, that is like 100% your fault. But I love you. But there's no reason that someone should lack information when it's all at the tip of our finger on our phones. You've got to read, practice the discipline of reading, expand your mind, expand your knowledge. And yeah, I think that was something I did
I
well.
got a couple questions for you about reading.
Okay. How to read? Do you want me to teach you right here and now?
Hooked on phonics.
Yes.
Worked for me.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you one question first to give you time to think about it.
Okay.
And then I'll ask you another question to buy the time for you to think about it.
Deal.
It's kind of a loaded question too, because I think
love that.
I know, because it depends on the topic. Top 3 books you would suggest for somebody to read?
Okay.
You know, and again, that depends on a lot of varieties.
I'll
but just
change
the
it up.
first 3 books coming out. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
And then the Audible subscription. Is that subscription actually yours? Or are you hacking into my Audible subscription like you do some of the other accounts that I have? Or
I don't. No, I have your NBC Peacock subscription. I have your. I think it's the only one now. I was using you. I was also using your Netflix, but we got our own. So
hey, congratulations.
actually, we just. Oh, I don't know.
Whose are we on right now?
I don't actually know whose we're stealing from.
What's mine is yours.
That's great.
What's mine is yours. All right, top 3 books. I think everybody should start with the Bible.
Oh, cool. That's a given. That's a given.
And there's 66 books in that
So that
one.
counts,
So, all right, top 3.
I would say anything. Okay, if you're gonna go faith, just one of my heroes of the faith. He just passed away in 2023. But Tim Keller. Honestly, if you're exploring the Christian faith, he's so good at preaching to skeptics. And even if you're already a Christian, you can grow so much. Anything written by Tim Keller is gonna be gold. If you want something more on the sociological, psychological, anything written by Malcolm Gladwell is going to be amazing. You can't not have C.S. Lewis in your top.
I agree.
I mean, he would, same vein as Keller. C.S. Lewis is more the early 1900s, early mid 1900s. But I would say those are probably, I mean, and it's hard. There's so many other really good authors out there. But that's probably my top 3 favorite authors that I have.
I like that. I like that. You know, I'm a big leadership fan in terms of reading.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, I like Patrick Lencioni.
Yeah.
You know, he's got a handful of books, you know, that he's written that I really like. Gordon Fee has a great book. I'm reading it right now on just the basics of the Bible.
Good.
And it's a lot about hermeneutics and exegesis.
Good.
But that's a current read right now. And then I agree with you too. I think you need to be reading some things that you actually don't agree with, not only to learn how to defend what you do believe in or agree with,
For sure.
but also to open your eyes to a different perspective of things.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I got a few thoughts on that book wise, but anyway, I would pick up some books or articles of things that kind of challenge you, frustrate you, create a healthy conflict or tension within you.
Oh, yeah.
Because that you learn from the tension, you grow from the tension.
Absolutely,
You
yeah.
know, so
about 10 years ago, I started reading some books by Richard Dawkins. He's an atheist.
Yeah.
He wrote the book. Oh gosh, what is it called now? God is Not Good, and that was a tough one.
Yeah.
That was a tough one to get through, but helped me to learn, how he thinks and. Anyways, yeah, but now it's funny. He's actually called himself a cultural Christian.
Christian, which
Yeah.
that could be a great podcast.
Well, we will probably get to that in the
That's
next
actually-
series. But yeah, he's that's going to come up for sure. But yeah, that's the books. Read some books.
Well, I'm thinking about when you were younger and before you started reading compared to now how you're older and you are read.
Yeah.
You've come a long way.
Thank
You
you.
were quite the idiot when you, I'm just
I was
kidding.
quite a little moron, huh? Just running around not knowing things.
All right, number 9 for me.
No, number 10.
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. I can't count.
Count. I'll teach you how to count after I teach you how to read. That'll
Number
be
10
good.
for me is I started wearing tracksuits.
Yeah, that's great.
And-
yeah, this is your second one in the last couple episodes.
At least you're
so-
keeping count.
What we talked about right before you got in here was we can mix and match your red tracksuit with your green one on Christmas time. That way, it's really festive.
It's brilliant.
It is.
You know, I'm a big. This is not my number 10 finest moment, by the way.
By the way,
but
that's a joke one. This is
that
just a bonus one.
I don't know if it's a joke. I wouldn't call my.
Okay.
I wouldn't call my tracksuits jokes.
Okay.
But I do enjoy a good tracksuit.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
Adidas.
comfortable. Yeah.
Specifically.
Specifically Adidas.
Yeah.
The Clover Adidas, I've also noticed. Not the new logo, they changed it. But
I mean, I'm
You like the
retro.
Clover.
You know, I wear these a lot just as because you can dress them up.
Okay.
dress
Let's
them
get
down.
off of the tracksuit
All right.
conversation.
All right, number 10 for me. It's so hard to do this and not sound like pompous.
Just say words.
You know,
and
like
see how
I don't
it
want
comes
people
out.
to think, man, this guy, you know,
Take a sip.
All right, number 10 for me.
That makes you look more pompous than anything you're about to read when you're about to.
The pinky. All right, number 10 for me is, and I need you to kind of back this up because I think it's true. I've just always seen the best in people.
Yeah.
Like I've always seen what people could be.
That's good.
I honestly, I think it's one of God's grace gifts on my life.
For sure.
Is to see people not necessarily for where they are, but for where they can be.
Right.
And I mean, from early on in my ministry, just seeing students and kids and teenagers, and then as the Lord elevated my responsibility in ministry to young adults and adults, like when I see people, I see the best in them.
It's good.
And where I believe they can be if they continue to pursue God, with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength.
Yeah. And
I mean, as a leader, I've taken a lot of risks on people because I have believed a lot in the potential that's there. Some of that has worked out. Sure. And then others of it, they didn't reach that potential.
Yeah.
But yet I'm sure that they're still on that journey to reach that potential because God wired us with purpose and potential.
For sure.
But man, I've always just believed in people. I was thinking about it too, and I'm not saying I'm like Jesus in any way, shape, or form.
I get that.
But it's kind of how Jesus was. And
right.
It's like Jesus believed in the least of these.
Yeah.
And I think about even his disciples.
Right.
These weren't like the brightest of the bright, the ones that would be picked first. They were kind of a JV group, if you will. They were kind of a misfit crew.
Right.
You had fishermen, you had a tax collector, you had a doctor. So in what they did, they were very well trained and educated. But again, when you were selected to follow a rabbi,
it's a big deal.
It was and you were the best of the best. So the fact that these guys weren't already following a rabbi,
right?
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Somewhere along the way, they weren't picked.
Yeah.
But Jesus saw the potential that was in them. And so just early on, I kind of thought, I want to see the best in people.
Yeah.
Like I don't just want to go, and I love going after top tier talent and those that have, these very visible gifts that they're operating in. But I also, man, I want to pour into people and raise people up. And again, I'm certainly not in any way, shape, or form taking credit for your leadership and your ministry. But man, the first time I ever met you, I was like, that kid, because you were a kid then, I was like, that kid, his future's bright. God's hand is on him. And I want to do everything I can to invest into David because I really believe in him. And somewhere along the way, I stopped believing in you.
Yeah. And I just kind of was stuck around. It's one of those that's just better to keep me around.
This is why you hacked into all my subscriptions.
Exactly.
No, but again, and I mean, I don't want to start naming people because I wouldn't want them to feel like they were a project to me because that's not my heart. But it's a number of people that I was like, man, I don't know. There's something really, really special about them.
It's good.
And I think when I look back over these years of ministry and life and leadership, it's one of my finest moments is, I don't know. We've actually talked about, the last thing I'll say, we'll jump into the other one. But we've talked about that before because in one of the previous episodes on the failures, we talked about the hiring, firing, onboarding, offboarding process. Yeah. And we talked about kind of our interview process. There's been a number of occasions where you were kind of like, I don't know about an individual.
Exactly.
I was like, there's something there.
Sure.
I would be like, there is something there. I believe in this individual.
Right.
And for the most part, yeah.
Well, here is let me go to the other side of that coin there so I can talk to the leaders out here. Actually, I want to say two things. One is it is a spiritual gift that's on your life. It's a spiritual gift in general, and you certainly possess it because you're able to see beyond the outward into the heart. And that only the Holy Spirit can show you that. And so that is a Holy Spirit gift in your life. The other side of that coin is now it's asking to anyone who's out there, whether you have this gift or not. Number one, you should pray for this gift. If you're the leader, you need to make sure you're seeing your team and the people underneath your leadership, whether it's directly or indirectly. You need to make sure you see them the way that Christ sees them for all that they could be, okay? But when it comes to bringing someone on your team, you do need to say, okay, I see the potential in them. So do I have the time and the resources to get them there, and the patience, the time, the patience, and the resources to get them there? Because you might see something, and that's great.
You're right.
But do you have the time to get them there? Because otherwise, you are, I mean, you call it what you want to. You're hiring or bringing on a project for yourself. Yeah. So that's fine. And it's actually really commendable. And I think it's, to your point, Christ-like. But you have to make sure you're in it for the long game. There's messes up front. There's a lot of learning. They're going to slow you down. But you're saying, you know what? Investing into them reaching their potential is even more important to me than seeing immediate results. Yeah. So it's a beautiful thing, but there's a dark side of that coin that you just have to know how to count the costs there. So to the leaders out there, make sure you're seeing your people that way through that lens of a Christ-like lens.
I like that.
They're made in the image of God. They have a great potential.
That image of God, that's Genesis 1:27. It's our word for the year for our team.
Yeah.
Genesis 1:27 says, and he created them male and female. He created them in his image. That's the Imago Dei. And every single person, every man, every woman is created in the wonderful, beautiful, awesome image of God. Yeah. And so he has wired all of us with great gifts, talents, and abilities and purpose and potential. So what you're talking about is so true. And I also like what you said, because I was thinking about a recent conversation we've had, and I've asked you, do you have the bandwidth?
Right.
And the willingness to invest into this individual like I know it's going to take in order for that individual to get there. Because if you're not willing to do it, then don't make the shift, don't make the move, don't make the hire, and vice versa for me too. Exactly. Because then we're putting them in a position to fail.
Exactly.
Because we know if we're not willing to invest, they're not going to make it. Mm-hmm. At least in the type of organization and the pace that we run.
Right.
So we do talk a lot about that. And so if you're a leader, don't just make a move organizationally by bringing someone on the team or moving their seat on the bus. If you're not willing to make the investment into them, because if the potential is there, sometimes it's worth your responsibility, energy, and effort to pour into the person.
Agreed. I'll move on here. I will say this advice does not apply to dating. Don't date a project, okay? Like, I'm sorry. You're not going to fix them. You're not going to change them. So this is only for organizational leadership. Do not marry someone for their potential, because you will annoy the bejesus out of them their whole life, and they will not like it.
Yeah.
So there you go. All right. My number 9 finest moment. And this is something that, again, is an ongoing thing for me. But I want to say always, it doesn't mean I haven't lied, but I've actually really valued truthfulness and transparency from the jump. I think that it's not because
you're a terrible liar.
That's what I was going to say is I don't even know if it's that I'm so moral and I'm just such a really good person. I think lying would be something I struggled with more if I was any good at it at all. Like if I tried to lie to you or my wife, you're probably the two people that would know right away. Like I can't even play jokes on people.
It's
like
so funny.
The joke where someone leaves their phone at the table when they go to the restroom and then you hide the phone and where's my phone? I hate it. I sweat and I'm like, she's got it. She stole your phone. Like I can't even lie. I can't play poker. I can't do anything because I can't lie. I just am so bad at it. Everything shows up on my face all the time, which kind of bleeds into the transparency thing too. I've also just learned, like in leadership, man, it's just better to tell the truth. Like it really is. I mean, there's obviously the Christian perspective on this. It's just that honesty is God's way. It's God's design. So you're just better being honest and trusting him with the results of your honesty. But man, trust in an organization is like key in a family, in an organization, and even around the world. I was actually listening to a podcast about this, about how governments that fall, and it's usually like under a communist regime, what starts happening is you can't trust anyone. Trust is the first thing to break down. It's not the economy. It's not anything else. It's just trust. When people start losing trust, that's when things start to break down. And I think it's true. So if we're going to be servant leaders, I just really have always valued, and it doesn't mean I've never lied or been dishonest or told half truths. I'm not saying I'm above, reproach there. I've fallen a handful of times, but I mean, for the most part, I just tell it like it is. And I think you've done the same thing. I think we're just like, look, this is who we are. This is who we are as a staff. This is who we are as a church. This is who we are as people. I mean, so the good news there is I actually tell people this in Move Track. I said, here's the good thing, guys. What you see is what you get, better or worse. I mean, our faults are going to be very obvious But we've always just kind of leaned into that and said, man, we're just going to be raw. We're going to be real. So truthfulness and transparency, leaders, family leaders, organizational leaders, just it's so key in your organization. Just be real. Like, trust God with the results of you telling the truth. And it has really worked out for me. Now, listen, not in the short term. And I think that even sometimes in the long run, it might not pay off. You might not ever see the benefits of telling the truth on this side of heaven, but it's just the right thing to do. Sometimes just doing the right thing is just the right thing to do. So valuing truthfulness and transparency, I think, has been a big win in my leadership, which again sounds arrogant, but it's been something that we've valued.
Listen, man, let me start with Kimberly. Kimberly and you are the two most trustworthy people
I appreciate
in
that,
my
man.
life. And of course, I mean, if my mom's listening, she would be upset that I didn't mention her. So mom,
love
of course.
Mom. Although, what are you up to, Mom?
Yeah, Mom. But man, I think that's because we've talked about this in previous episodes, but my personality as an Enneagram 8, which is a challenger.
Sure.
One of the greatest difficulties for my personality is I don't want to lose control. I don't want to lose power, and I have trust issues.
Yeah.
And so I think what's made our not just work relationship, but our friendship so great is I know I could trust you.
Right.
I could trust you with, the responsibilities here at the church, to the keys to my car, which I love my car.
Yeah.
To, my family.
Yeah.
I mean, and you've always had that about you. And that's why I laugh, because when you were a kid, and tried to lie, it was like,
you're not telling me the truth. Esther knows, man, right away. I just start smiling. It's just, it's hard to do.
I think the family on my father's side that I grew up knowing is, kind of not always truth tellers. And it is a little bit of a generational curse that I believe that the Lord has helped me to break. Although Lake would say I exaggerate a lot of the stories in my sermons. I don't think that.
I mean, when you're telling a story, you
have
to
lying.
You have to you add a little color to it. You don't want to tell a black and white story.
Exactly.
It's got to be a little more vivid.
I try to tell the kids all the time, that, hey, we're Worleys. I'll say that a lot. We're Worleys. That means for this context, we tell the truth.
Yeah, we're going to tell the truth.
And so but I do appreciate that about you, and you've modeled that.
Thanks, man.
You've modeled that exceptionally well. All right, back to
number 9.
More great things I've done.
Yeah.
Don't be condescending.
I know that you know what comes after.
I know,
10.
but you're like you're going to help me.
I just don't want you to make a mistake again.
Number 9.
Remember when you started with number 9 and it was supposed to be 10? I want to make sure
you see what these, but there's the truth again.
There's
That's
the truth.
just the truth.
That is the truth.
But these listeners, they really tell what I put up with.
Yeah.
Okay,
True.
Number 9.
Number 9.
Okay, number 9 for me is I've never really been afraid of change, nor have I been afraid to make changes.
Yeah, that's true.
And first of all, nobody likes change.
Right.
Okay. I mean, that's the old saying. Nobody likes change. The only person that likes change is a baby, and they cry the whole time. Right. So,
good.
I understand that people don't like change, but I also realize that, without change, you will not grow.
That's a good point.
And that is with any area of your life. From the physical, nature to organizational structure. If you refuse to embrace change, that you're just not going to grow. And I've never really been afraid of embracing change. I've never refused to change things. It's not like I sit around in my office thinking about things that we need to change, but a lot of times I'm in my office thinking about the things that we need to change.
Yeah.
So one of my lines is, if somebody has, a complaint, I always respond with, well, nobody wants to fix that any more than I do, or nobody's got more complaints than I do, because I'm always thinking about how to get better and areas that we need to improve. And I'm just I'm not afraid of it.
Yeah.
We could go through the list of companies in our lifetime that they were it, man.
I know.
And now they ain't it at all.
Yeah.
From Toys R Us.
Radio Shack. Remember Radio Shack?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish there was still a Radio Shack.
I do.
You know, I got like my first car.
Yeah.
Radio Shack was.
That's it.
There's so many
Your
little.
Pontiac, was it a Pontiac?
Okay. No, it was a Plymouth. Okay. It was a Plymouth Laser. You probably have never.
I didn't
Exactly.
have that around.
No,
what were
I
the
know.
80s like? I wasn't alive yet.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Everything.
It's really good.
So we talked about Radio Shack, Toys R Us, Blockbuster. I probably still owe. I'm one of the reasons
Yeah,
Blockbuster
they're
went
out
out
of business, yeah.
You know, but like, I mean, Blockbuster was it, man.
I know.
But they refuse to change.
Got to change.
And then came, and I don't want to talk about something I don't know, but I think it was really Redbox
Yeah.
that kind of put them in a spot. And then came Netflix.
Yeah.
So again, like if you're an organization or a company and you refuse to make these changes, you are putting that organization in a very dangerous position, because at some point you will hit a lid. One of the things I like to say a lot is, I am married to the vision, but I'm dating the method.
Yeah.
And what that means is, we know the vision of this house.
Right.
We're going to love anyone from anywhere into a personal and growing relationship with Jesus Christ. We are married to that, and we're not changing that. That's what God put in our hearts all those years ago. Now, the methods to accomplish that,
Yeah, it has to change.
I'm dating those things,
Yeah.
because what worked here may not work at that level there. And so you've got to be willing to embrace the change. Don't be afraid to try new ideas. Don't be afraid to do something in the season. You know, I don't ever want to, I don't know. I don't ever want to live in fear or live in the like, what ifs. I mean, I'll come back to this as we work through our top 10 list, which you don't know this, but we're working down from 10 to 1.
Exactly.
Yeah. But like Kimberly and I, we made one of the biggest changes of our whole lives, and we moved to Maryland to start Go Church. You know, and of course that was scary. And then later on, we made the change to move back from Maryland to Atlanta.
Right.
You know, and so of course those moments were scary, but I never wanted to live my life with like, well, what if?
Right.
And so I've just always embraced change. Now, I don't anticipate the Lord ever calling us anywhere else. This is it. Thanks be to God for that. But now that we're established and the church is moving forward, like, I just don't want to be complacent. I think complacency is very dangerous.
It is. Yeah.
You know, I think that we can get very comfortable. As a matter of fact, I've been challenged recently just in my prayer time in my life and leadership, that there was something about the desperation of those early days. Like, we just had to survive.
Yeah.
Like, you had to figure out to survive.
Sure.
And I think what happens, so to some leaders that are listening, that organization grows and you just can get a little comfortable if you're not careful.
Sure.
It's just really dangerous. I always want to be thinking outside of the box. I always want to be looking across the horizon. I always want to find these areas or these pockets of things that could use a little bit of improvement. And then let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's just do it. Because if it doesn't work,
Yeah.
for the most part,
We're fine.
we're fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but again, I think for a lot of companies, a lot of organizations, a lot of churches, that lid for them is this refusal to make change. And not all of it is this sweeping, massive change. It could be these little tweaks.
Yeah.
You know, so it could be a store owner that you just need to reevaluate your store hours. And maybe it's just an hour early or an hour later, something so small like that. Or maybe it's a pastor and you've got to consider launching a second gathering or service. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a business owner and it's bringing on that next employee. Whatever that looks like, maybe it's a married couple and you're talking about children and the fear of starting a family that way.
Yeah.
But you've got to, I mean, if you want things to grow, you've got to embrace the change. So I think I've done that well. Doesn't always mean I've led through it well.
Sure.
We talked about that
No,
before.
yeah.
But I've always embraced the change and I've never been afraid to make changes, you know?
Yeah.
So
That's important.
yeah.
And that's, I mean, it's borne fruit in our organization. And for anyone out there, if you're leading something and you're questioning, should I make the change? Should I not? How do you know? You know, because you don't want to change just for change's sake. It's not just to keep everyone on their toes. It's strategic. And so what you need to do is just need to ask yourself, what is our organization or our family or whatever? What are we here to do? Right? You talked about being married to the vision, dating
Yep.
the method. You've got to really deep down know, what are we here to do? And here's what I'd be willing to bet. If you're hesitant to change, I'd be willing to bet that it's because there is a person or a group of people that you don't want to upset. And those people have become more important to you than the whole reason you're there to begin with. You'd rather not disturb the crowd. You'd rather not upset somebody. And you have forgotten why you're really there. So we know why we're really here as a church, or why is my family really here as a family? What were we put here to do? And so will this change help us to do it better and to reach more people with that purpose? And if the answer is we've got to change it in order to do it better, then you have to do it. And the people that are not on board with that mission means they're only on board with their perception of what it should be. And that's, again, we talked about that. That's division. It's probably time for them to go somewhere else. You just got to be okay with that. Count the cost. And I'm not saying there's not a cost. We have a friend that, runs a small business that they made a big change to the way they do this small business. And it's not bringing immediate yields, and it's a little stressful for them. And but they're playing the long game, and they know, listen, there are just going to be some people that are going to deviate, but we know what our business is here to do, and we have to make this change in order to do this well and count that cost. But yeah, don't be afraid. And you've led with that boldness for sure. And I've been proud of that.
Thank you. There's a great quote that I've adopted in our kind of thinking here about the ministry and the future and the growth and reaching people. But I do think that you could apply it even to the scenario you talked about a moment ago with the friend of ours that's making some pretty major changes in his company. Yeah. But here's the quote. Are you a keeper of the aquarium, or are you a fisher of men?
Right.
And so for us, I just didn't feel like I was called just to maintain the aquarium, to keep the aquarium.
Sure.
Our four and no more.
Right.
I felt like God has called us. It's why we're called Go Church. It's why, I own a green tracksuit.
Yeah.
Just to be reminded.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just in case you forgot.
We're going to go.
Yeah.
We're going to go. We're going to reach people. And that means in order to continue to create capacity and opportunity, you've got to make changes, and not just for the sake of change, but line it back up with the vision and what's going to help us to love people to life.
Yeah.
And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, we'll reevaluate, but we're going to keep moving forward.
I like it.
I would rather fail forward.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Than just sit idle and not reach more people for Jesus.
I like it, man. Hey, that's numbers 10 to 9 of it's our finest moments.
You didn't sound near as arrogant as I thought you were going to sound.
Well, the day is young. We got number 8, 7, and 6 next week. Those are the next 3 that come after 10 and 9.
Thank you for reminding me how to
8,
count.
8, 7, and 6, and then we'll do 5, 4, and 3, and then the last 2 and number 1.
Number 1.
Yeah, so that's how we'll do this.
I'm excited about number 2 and number 1.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah,
that'll be the season finale of this season that we're in. And so that'll be great. But hey, join us again next time for the next episode of On the Go, 8, 7, and 6 of our finest moments in leadership. It's been fun. See you next time.
Adios.